Hey, Eric. There we go. Now, there we go. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. How are you?
Very well. Nice to see you. It looks like you have nice weather. Has your heat wave broken yet?
Well, they just broke. I'll show you some. Here is a Grenache. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, here we go.
Nice. Cool. Oh, that's say
So
there's a little.
they just turned.
Oh, okay. So it's very zone. And your heat is the heat kind of is it? It was really hot for a few days, right?
Yeah, we had a very difficult year here in the Terrace de Lazac because it's been raining and very mildew and hot, raining. And normally we're not used to that because we normally have the tramontagne that's very
Yeah.
thick. So we're not used to the mildew. Up here, I'm at about 250 meters on elevation. So here I don't have a lot of problem, but on some other vineyards, yes, I do have problems with mildew.
We'll revisit that more specifically in a little bit, and I want to ask about that. But first, there is a little arrow. I think I wrote you about it. If you want to show us around, you can flip out of selfie mode. Just be aware of that. It's easier to aim the camera if you want.
So this is a about a hectare of Grenache Noir.
Okay.
It's about 55 years old, the vines.
Mm-hmm.
And and I wanted to show you this because this is a vineyard I took over like 2.5 years ago, and
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of biodynamics here
Fabulous.
to get the soil living again, and also to get the grapes in better quality.
I see.
Uh, and luckily here it's very because I got the fortune of buying 2.5 hectares around here, which are all I'll show you. They are all there's nothing around,
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
so
Yeah.
it's just my vineyard and that's it.
Okay.
And there's an old Roman church over there that's called San Silvestre, and that's it. It's me and my vineyards and this old church, and it's beautiful because it's you can make some very fresh wines out of this.
Uh-huh.
And since I really love to make more northern style wine than southern style wine, this suits me perfect. And you can see already that I mean, when I took over this, the grapes were clustered a bit like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it. And now with the biodynamic work, you have like this.
Yeah.
So they are very aerated, and the quality of the grapes will be perfect. There's no disease whatsoever up here because that's the advantage of not having vineyards around you when you work with biodynamics or with natural. And I'm 100% natural. I do very, very little treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have vineyards like this that doesn't get the disease from the other vineyards, it's absolutely perfect.
That's amazing. So I want to start with the official part of the interview where I ask a few questions. So
Sure.
would you and there's a button on your screen on the lower right where your face is. It's like two arrows in a circle that flips the camera. There you go. If it's easier to point and show us around
Okay.
when
So you
you
don't see my ugly face.
no, I love to see your face, but it's easier
All
for you to see what you're seeing that way.
right.
So go in and out of that to show people. So my first question is always like, what's your story? How did you get to wine? And because some people were born into it and then left or just always knew. Some people grew up in America and had no idea but fell in love. Where are you from and what's your story and how'd you get where you are now?
Well, actually, so I'm a Swedish mergers and acquisition lawyer.
Okay.
That's my story. And 15 years ago, or even more, I said, I'm not going to end my life like this, traveling, because I worked a lot international and I loved it. But I said, there must be something more. And I come from in Sweden from an agricultural family, and I'm a Taurus. I always had one foot in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I really miss this, feeling of agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, do I want to do wheat and rye in Sweden? No.
Okay.
So what do I love? I love south of France. I love wine. I always been an amateur de vin, so loved wines.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, why not?
That sounds amazing. Don't be shy to
Uh,
show your face. It's when you're talking, it's nice to see you.
okay, I'll show my face again.
But
All
if you,
right.
I don't mind going back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no worries, no worries.
So then,
So I was really. I have a Swiss winemaker that's visiting me right now, and we were talking about that. Why? And I said, I just had to.
yeah.
There was no question about it, and it was about. I knew nothing about making wine or anything, but I said, well, that can't be that difficult. So I just said, yeah, I'll. And I started off with, I bought an old mass that was a complete ruin, and my father thought I was completely crazy, and I renovated that, and I bought 4 hectares of wine, and then I kind of developed that with the sales and everything. So now I have about 10 hectares, and bit by bit, I mean. It's really about being. I mean, you can see it here. It's really about being long term.
Mm-hmm.
Vineyards is long term. Look at these grapes; they are so beautiful. And
Beautiful.
now we are talking about the year of mildew. It's a year de merde here in France, in south of France.
It's what?
But there's nothing here. It's so sound. It's so perfect, and I think that is about being very. Well, we can talk about because I know you wanted to talk about biodynamics, and
Mm-hmm.
for me, biodynamics is very much a philosophy. It's not so much using the 500, 501, na na na. It's much more to be very present in your vines.
Yeah. Sorry.
Am I on now? It's just that people are
Yeah, you're
calling me.
present in the vine in this 500 and 501 spray.
Well, I think when you have when you take up on a new vineyard like this one I took up on 3 years ago. Then the 500 and 501, particularly the booster corn, which I make myself, is very important. But then after a while, when the vineyard is getting, really in a good shape, it's not about treating it with that all the time. It's more of a sensation of what do I need to do this year? What is the weather? What is the climate? How do I need to react and proact to not have problems?
Yeah. So
And then you can use I don't know what the English word, la prêle, or the nettles, or a lot of decoctions and the macerations of that. I use a lot of rosemary for the oidium,
oh, okay.
against the oidium. And I don't think there's not one recipe.
Right.
The whole thing that is very, very important is to be there and to be present and to not put your head in the sand and think, oh, everything is going to be cool because I treat every week or every second week. No,
So
every year is different.
how did you decide to go biodynamic rather than just organic?
Well, it was a very conscious choice for me because I read the conference of Steiner, and it made sense. It made completely logic sense to me that if you have a soil that's dead, you have to wake it up.
Yeah.
You have to make the biodiversity coming back. You have to make something to boost it a bit, and that's where the booster corn is fantastic because it boosts the soil, and you get all the little guys working in the soil again, and that's really really fantastic. Well, why did I do it? Well, because I met some people who was biodynamic, and I got inspired by them and working by horses and all this, and I said, well, that's the way to go.
So the horn that you buried, talking about that preparation, you don't do you spray that over every inch of the vineyard, or you loosely spray and it's like a homeopathy that then triggers
It's a homeopathy. It's a homeopathic thing.
and it kind
It's
of
very much. So what you basically do, you take 100 grams into 100 liters of water. I mean, that's the basic solution. The water should be normally rainwater, but I have a source that comes from the mountain, so I can use that water because it's not polluted. And then you dynamize it, and then I call it, hey, wake up, guys, solution.
I like that. And can you show us again? You showed us before, but people come in and out of this, so I want to show them again. You said it's really nice that that vineyard you're in has no neighbors, so you're not getting any spray from people. It's
No,
completely wild around you.
I'll show you. Let's see. Well, it started to rain now, so my screen
Oh,
is a
if
bit.
you need to go into the car, that's completely fine.
No, 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 no. I love the rain,
Okay.
but it's just my screen that's getting a bit.
Here.
Let me see if I can do this. Oh, come on. Yeah. So basically, we are on a ridge here.
Okay.
And this is my wine. This is my wine. And then there's nothing.
Wow.
And I have a little wine vineyard down as well. So I have about 2.5 hectares here, which is about 5 acres in the US measurements. And it's the really the real advantage of this is that there is no neighbors. I mean, that's the disadvantage is that I now have to put electric fence around it because there's a lot of wild boars around here.
There are. Okay. And
they love the grapes.
yeah. Wow. Is the electric fence effective against them?
It's not super effective, but at least it will save me like maybe instead of having 50% of my harvest, I will have 90%.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's fair enough. Can you explain? So you're in the Terrace de Larzac. Can you explain that appellation a little bit, very broadly, for people not in the wine business?
Well, it's actually. I mean, I'm probably the worst person to explain it because I do everything Vin de France because I don't mix. I do a lot of monocepage, so single grapes varieties, and then you cannot be AOC Terrace de Larzac. But the Terrace de Larzac itself, I mean, this is all AOC vineyards, and what is amazing here is that you have really hot days and normally cold nights.
Okay.
So you have you can make very fresh wines, even if you're not in the Loire or and even if you're only at 12 degrees of alcohol, your grapes are ripe.
Wow. Okay. And that's because of the altitude that you have the cool nights normally?
No, it's more that there is this wind tramontagne that comes from the mountains.
Okay.
That cools it down. So it's not so much altitude; it's more that the wind situation.
Which then comes north. Okay, that makes sense. So what grapes do you grow altogether?
I grow all the classical southern grapes. I have Carignon, a lot of Carignon. This is the Grenache Noir. I have Cinsault, and I have a bit of Serra, and well, that's it in the reds. And then in the whites, I have Grenache Blanc, Grenache Gris, Claret, and now Vermentino as well.
Wow, okay. And everything is a monocepage that you make?
More or less, I make one blend because I have well, that's not because when I talked about the red, I have a small parcel of Merlot, so I make a Carignon Merlot, but for the rest, it's monocepage, yes.
And you, because people are starting, or at least I am, and I think it's not uncommon, people are starting to understand Terrace de Larzac, but also Vin de France, we're seeing more and more of that, and there's many articles being written about featuring people who choose to make a Vin de France. Do you take an economical hit by calling it Vin de France? Or
No, it's not about economy. It's just being completely free. I don't want people to judge. I mean, particularly not people who are conventional to judge my wines.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they could probably pass, some of them at least.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when you do, I do everything on amphoras without any intervention whatsoever. I'm a very lazy winemaker. I don't use anything. It's just grape juice, no SO2, no nothing. And, you know, it's the way we made wines before the First World War. But today, the wine market has become so conventional that people want a certain taste from Terrace de Larzac, which I believe is completely wrong, because I think if you make a 100% Carignon, 100% Cinsault, or 100% Grenache, it can't be more Terrace de Larzac.
Yeah.
But that's not how the market here in France looks at it. I export 98% of my wine, so no one cares.
Okay. And where do you export to? A lot of Sweden, I assume?
Well, I did do some to the US, but with your present administration, it's getting a bit difficult.
Really awful.
But yeah, Scandinavia, Italy is my biggest export country, actually.
Okay.
And then all of Europe, a bit in Russia, a bit to Japan. Yeah. But I'm a small producer. I mean, I make 30,000 bottles.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell me about the Carignon? Because it's one of my favorite red grapes, and especially from where you are. And my understanding is the vine has to be at least like 15 years before the grapes are good. And so people are
It
not.
should be 100 years.
Oh, there you go. So people are not planting it, so it's more and more going away. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you like about Carignon, and how does it taste? And tell us.
Well, the Carignon is a very specific grape. It does not like to be touched.
Oh.
It's like a lady that comes in, you know, when you have this beautiful lady, comes in with a beautiful dress. You can look at me, but don't touch me.
Okay.
That's the Carignon.
That's awesome.
It's called Le Carignon, but I call it La Carignon because it's so temperamental. But if you don't touch it, and if you just treat it very carefully, it can become very sensual and old vines. My youngest Carignon is 60 years old, and my oldest is 110 years old.
Oh my gosh, and still going strong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the 110 years old is getting a little bit tired, but
and it produces.
It's really amazing when you can, because everyone says it's kind of animalistic, it's not elegant, it's rustic. I don't agree with that. It gives a lot of acidity, a lot of elegance, and a lot of length.
Yeah.
And it loves the amphoras.
Oh, really? Well, maybe that's why yours are so elegant, because I always think that has a little bit of a grilled meat note. And if you just think about charcuterie when you taste it, it explains that little bit of animal note that you said.
But you should not just, don't ever touch me. That's it.
But what does that mean?
Leave me alone.
You don't prune. You don't. Is it
Of
gobelette?
course, I prune. But what I'm talking about is, when you harvest the grapes, you have to be very delicate with the grapes. You
I
shouldn't crush them. You shouldn't do anything like that. You should just leave them on the stems. Maybe de-stem a bit, but the least you touch them, and don't do any big pump over or anything like that. Just leave them and do a short maceration. I do like 8 days of maceration with my Caringon.
huh?
And then they go in, because I do everything. The vinification is in concrete, big concrete vats by gravitation, and then I put them on amphoras, and amphoras in terracotta that breathes,
Wow.
because that's good, because they have a lot of, the Caringon is very reductive,
Uh-huh.
so the terracotta is breathing, but it doesn't give the bad thing of wood.
Okay.
Wood, for me personally, is bad. Not for white wine is okay, but that has acidity. But for here, we don't have acidity enough for wood.
Wow. But so, do you get a little carbonic or carbonic fermentation?
Well, it's kind of a semi-carbonic, but it's not really a carbonic. It's I don't like the carbonic macerations, because I think you lose your terroir with that if you do a complete carbonic maceration. But yes, it gets a little bit carbonic in a way, because of course when you leave the grapes on the stems and
Right.
they get, but it's not like a classic carbonic maceration like in Beaujolais, where you get all the fruit and no terroir.
Mhm.
So it's in between, in between.
And your terracotta amphora are unlined, not even beeswax or anything. Does it evaporate too much?
Pardon?
When you said you ferment or you age in the terracotta amphora, it doesn't evaporate. There's no lining at all.
Not at all. Not at all. You just have to get the good producer.
Oh, okay, okay, that makes sense. Awesome.
No, no, no. There are. I use Artonovo from Tuscany, and he had some problems a couple of years ago, but he solved that. No, they don't lose.
I
A
see.
barrel loses much more.
Wow, I had never thought about that, but okay, that makes sense. Um, so what kind of foods do you drink with your wine? Tell me a little bit about the region, and maybe you have a different take because you're Swedish. For the parents, what
Well,
do you?
I love Asian food.
Oh, you do. Does that work with your wine?
I have an Asian stagiaire, so she cooks Vietnamese for me every day now.
That's awesome.
But no, but the thing with natural wines that doesn't have any when you don't do anything to them, is that they actually work very well with almost everything. They adapt. They're like us humans. Well, there's some days they're not so good, but there's some days when they just say, well, let me show me how beautiful I am.
I like.
And that is, and I really believe that, the practice of using, even the guys who use just a little bit. I'm not an ayatollah, but I think it's absolutely unnecessary to use any sulfite, SO2 in the wines. If you have a good practice and good grapes. I mean, I've been doing this now for what, 12 years. How many cuvées have I lost? Maybe two or three.
Okay. Wow, that's great.
But no, but it's really like, you know you have to love your wines. You have to talk to them. You have to take care of them, but in a very gentle way. You have to be in a good mood when you enter the cellar. You have to send good energy, because they're very energy sensitive.
That's fascinating. I gotta say, that's fascinating, and that's
But
even.
they are. I mean, when you come and visit me, Jeff, I will show you, and you will get the point,
Oh,
because that's the whole point of for me with natural wine. Yes, there's a load of shit natural wines out there that's not well done. I agree with that, unfortunately, but people are getting better and better on it, and the energy and the liveliness and the feeling that, wow, this is something alive. It's like when I mean, I have a big garden. I grow all my vegetables myself, and when you go out and pick a tomato and you crunch it and it's like a candy, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. There is, we don't understand that. We think we understand everything, but we don't understand that life. And that life in a wine is the same thing.
Yeah.
Every time you move a wine, he will tell you, what the F did you do to me?
I like to hear that you talk about vitality, because that's so often having a glass of wine is having a conversation with the winemaker or visiting the place, and if you can maintain that vitality, it's
No,
really
but that's everything for me. I cannot today drink a wine with SO2.
wow.
I feel it, I smell it directly, even if it's only 10 milligrams.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's well, I don't want to put anyone down, because I understand why people do it, and I'm not saying that, but I think it's a shame, because they don't really need to do that. They have beautiful wines, and the wine would be so much more interesting. It would be, even because what happens is that it's like giving this little medication that doesn't really do anything for you, but
Yeah.
you feel, oh, like a winemaker, I did that, and I can sleep better at night.
Sure. Sure. And do you think your wines travel as well? Because that's the thing that
Oh, they travel super well.
really okay, good.
I never had a problem with
Really?
any one.
Oh,
Uh, Even with, they actually take heat variation very well. I mean, they're alive.
there.
That's the whole thing. They're alive. Well, maybe the first month you shouldn't drink it, but then after a month, they kind of, oh yeah, I adjust. All right, this is my new environment.
I like to hear that, because I would rather do like you're doing and drink those wines too, but it's not always practical. Um, can you show? We're almost at a half an hour. Would you mind showing us around again? And then I have another question about your single varietal wines. Do you have multiple plots of, say, Grenache Noir on different soil that you?
Oh, I only have this Grenache Noir. The Carignon, I have different plots. The Sanso is only one plot. It's about a hectare with this wine that is 75 years old. And here you see, I mean, here you see beautiful how dispersed they are,
Oh,
and that's also very good for disease, because they, even if one grape gets the disease, they won't travel to the others. It's massive. It's a 65-year-old vine, and no, but at the end of the day, yes, I'm trying to buy old vines, because I love old vines.
yeah.
And so I just 2 years ago, I bought almost a hectare of Caringon that was planted in 1931.
Wow.
And I have one that was planted in 1914. And, it's for me, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of the grapes. And you can see how sound these are, even in a year of mildew that we had a lot.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And I think that's I mean, it's really, I don't work the soil at all. I just cut the like a grass cutter,
Yeah.
like a mow. I just mown the soil. I don't work the soil, because I think to me it's counterproductive. Because everything that is down in the soil, that wants to be down in the soil, and everything's up in the soil, all the things, they want to be up in the soil. And if you turn it around, you kill it.
Yeah. So much nightlife. I'm like nightlife. So much life under the ground that gets disrupted. The roots and little bugs.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what nourishes the roots, and that's what gives I mean, I'm going to have a beautiful harvest here, and in a year that was very, very difficult here.
Wow. Oh, well, Erik, I'll let you go. Could you give us one more tour around of your horizon and show us where you are up in Terrace de
Yep.
la Languedoc? And did I ask everything I should ask? Is there anything else you want to tell us?
No, no, no. I mean, it's really very simple and very logic. It's not something. I mean, if a Swedish lawyer can do this, everyone can do it. No, it's not. It's really it's really, nature is extremely logic. It's not excusing you. but it's very logic, and I believe very much in this, that you cannot force nature, but you have to help. Well, not help. That's the wrong word. But you have to be there to accompany.
Yeah, almost like a shepherd.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
John or Eric, I love your philosophy, and I can't wait to try your wines. I get over there fairly frequently after this hiccup, so I'm definitely coming to see you.
You're so much welcome.
Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate chatting with you.
Well, same.
All right.
Lovely.
Be well,
Ciao.
Eric.
Bye bye.
Pleasure. Bye bye.
Bye bye.